some crisis at a time, Porpoise, please. Now, class, our second word is plain. Plain. Grandpa preferred plain M&Ms because they were easier on his dentures. Plain. Plain. Well, my new method seems to be working great. Nothing but blue skies ahead. Ahead. Ahead.
Ahead. Ahead. It was a calm day. Blue skies, warm and wonderful. We were flying in a tight formation deep behind enemy lines. Men, are you with me? Over.
Roger, Fearless. We're right on your wings. Over. July Day! July Day! I'm hit! I'm hit!
Now don't give up, boy. Let me maneuver over to you and then you can jump into my plane. Can you do that?
Well, Fearless, I don't think...
Don't think! It's simple. It's like a game. Well, really, life's just a game. It's just one big old game of chance.
Like strip poker?
Exactly. No, boy, are you ready? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, jump! Ah, there you are, boy. Oh, I knew you could do it.
Oh, Fearless! How could I ever repay you?
God bless you, Fearless.
God bless you and your trusty plane. 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 P-L-A-I-N. Officer, what are you doing out of your seat? My pen popped open, Miss Komodo. I had to chase the little springy thing. All the way across the room.
Okay, a round of applause for Joe. With the chart?
Yeah.
Okay, turn to the chart. You got it? Key is where it says character chart. It's about in the middle. Now, let me tell you where this came out of. Have you ever had kids where they will come into your room and they're doing their material and it has characters and they'll really do it pretty well, and then they'll come back the next day and they're doing something else and you have no idea what they're doing, and you're saying, well, what happened? What about yesterday? Well, I'm still doing the same thing. Well, no, you're not. You know, the whole idea that when a kid goes from one round to the next and they come out and they say, I just couldn't get into it. Have you heard that before? That drives me crazy. What do you mean you can't get into it? We got up at 5 o'clock and came here all this way for you not to be able to get into it. And so this is something that you have in front of you that I had to put together. And the main reason for putting it together was we need to be able to, in a clinical manner, take the characters apart and say for every one of these aspects, what are you after? Or the coach and the kid, here's what we should be after. This is the pragmatic side of Inter. And then when they come in and they're doing an aspect, and by the way, before I forget, this is advice for work sessions. In work sessions, I never work with any more than maybe 1 or 2 minutes of material. Because if it's wrong for a minute or 2, you can bet it's going to be wrong for 8 or 10. And so let's get 1 minute right, and then we'll add to it by maybe 30 seconds or so. That gives the kid confidence because now in a cumulative manner, they are beginning to build in skills. All right, so if you look at the chart right across the top, this is what you are after. And it doesn't matter whether we're talking about Joe Palzine or John Hoffmeister, you'll see probably coming up, or my son Joe Wycoff, who was at Chesterton. We all did the same thing. So you say, well, wait a minute, Joe's awfully good. Did he do one of these? Yes, he did. He did a chart. Do they always want to do a chart? No, they don't, until they begin to see, wait, this stuff really pays off. Now, some people will really get into this. They'll do their chart and they'll do it in colors. They'll color their chart. They'll have little initials and everything all over it. That's okay. You go ahead and let them do it. This is what you're after. Look at the categories across the top. Yeah. What does rate mean? Tell me.
Speed at which you speak. Fast or slow.
Rate is the speed at which you speak, right? So if I put rate here, and what's pitch? High or low. So I can put pitch here. So I know the speed at which I speak, and then also the highs and the lows. Kids have to know what their range really is. And a lot of them don't. They have one main range that they go to. And so your job is to get them out of that so that you can discover and have them discover. If not, their voice will scare them to death whenever they get in front of people. And so this is what we would work on. I would say something like, this is the speed at which you can speak. This is the speed at which you can speak. This is the speed at which you can speak. I'd speed up. This is the speed at which you can speak. This is the speed at which you can speak. This is the speed at which you can speak. There will be a time in every cutting when the slowest that you will go needs to be utilized. I need for you to listen. Right? That could be a line from a play. It's not, I need for you to listen. Because what happens, like Pam had said for drama, if you speak the same speed the entire way through, if all your characters are talking with the same speed, what happens after a while? What? We don't pay any attention because they all kind of run together. What are you after doing? You're trying to delineate the number of characters you have, and each one needs to be separate. Now, what about for pitch? This is the highest that, remember, you never go falsetto. Even for people doing something in humor, that's a real risk. This, now listen to this. This. The highest note, I need to be able to sing it. I need to be able to sing it. And this might be the lowest that I would go. So my range, I know that's the height. Here, that's the low. My objective, folks, is I've got to hit notes everywhere in between. Beware when you're working with girls, because they will do this. All right, now I want you to get, how would you speak normally? Well, this is the way I talk, Mr. Wycoff. Well, how high can you go? Well, I can go this high, here. What's the lowest you can go? I can go this low. No, you've got a whole lot more of a voice than you think. And so getting girls, not to classify as girls, but out of that range is really something that is a problem, because they won't have confidence in their voice, particularly if they're going to be doing 2 or 3 characters. Now, this is something to keep in mind, particularly about pitch or rate or volume. What does volume mean?
Loud or sound?
There are times when I need to give volume in a cutting. And there are times I need to be able to whisper. I have an extreme on each side, right? What about with the eyes? What are the extremes with eyes? What could you do? What? Say it, say it.
Cross your eyes.
Wide-eyed.
You could cross your eyes. Well, I suppose you could. But what about this? What is this? This is what?
Wide-eyed.
Wide-eyed. Or I could be here.
Squinting.
That is squinty. Now, that is, there are times in the material when I need to have eyes like this. There are times in the material when I need to have eyes like this. What's the point? You see the range in there? Okay, so we have pitch and rate. We have volume. What else is on the sheet?
Tone.
The tone. Pam's going to talk on.
Well, that just is, I mean, it's the nasal. So what he's talking about here is within the piece you want to have range, but on the chart, you can also try to get your characters to fit into a specific range for distinctive characterization of
Like
the
a
voice.
nasal.
So the kids are going to map out who's the highest pitch, who's the medium pitch, who's the lowest pitch. But then there might be, a more nasal voiced one that's going to talk a little bit more like this, but then there might be somebody that's more melodic, and a little lower. So the point being, you're trying with the tone, and so I have on here resonant, nasal, breathy. There's someone that's going to talk in a lot of air when they speak. So breathy, husky, a warbling, which should be W-A, I believe, or an accent. So we go through the chart, which has the character names next to it, and the kids go through on the voice, the pitch, the volume, the rate, and try to delineate who's fitting into what spectrum. Because usually what happens in the piece is everybody's pretty similar, except maybe the voice is higher, lower, medium, but there's no breathiness, there's nothing really unique to them. So I think that's all part of what they have there. And the last one is articulation, where you have people that are very crisp, but then they got kind of a swampier voice person too. So that goes in terms of body, and that goes in terms of voice.
Okay, I'll go.
Yeah.
Now, this is something to keep in mind, because I want to do the body positions. That's a big one. That one, and I want to mention this before I forget it. The most overlooked part of interpretation is the legs.
Yes.
The most overlooked part of interpretation is the legs. They'll do a lot with the face, but they forget about their legs. And when I get to commitments and beating the word and so forth, we'll talk about that. But you don't ever give away this part of your body. Now, if we're working on the chart and we know that we have our extremes, rate and pitch, we also have that for vocal and eyes, etc. You need to understand that there are extremes all the way out here for each of the terms. That means that there are choices. Well, life is nothing but a series of choices, most of them wrong. But the right one is out there. The same thing is true in interp, and so you have to look for that, right? Folks, this is where your kids will want to go. Right there. Don't they? They want to go where it's safe. This is the safe zone. My comment to the kids when they're in the safe zone is, listen, don't forget one thing with interp. You have to make a fool of yourself. You're not going to like everything that you do, but you've got to get comfortable with that. Coaches, you have to be able to demonstrate. Who was the guy I talked about last night that when he's cutting cards or whatever, you got to sit down with the kids and you have to get it done too. And so when you're talking with the kids about, I want to see what your pitch range is, you have to be able to try and do that with them. What will it do? It will make them laugh, right? They'll laugh at you for doing that, but then it's not so stupid when they have to do it too. The saying for this that I always use is, champions play on the edges. The champions play out here, folks. The people who go out early, they're really the ones right there in the safe zone. Now, this cutting that we did for Joe Paulzine that you just watched, this whole thing started with his ability to do what character? Which one?
Harry Carey.
Harry Carey. How many of you know who Harry Carey is? He used to do Harry Carey at school. And he would do Harry Carey, and he would act like he was carrying a Budweiser or whatever the beer may have been when he was announcing for the Cubs, and everybody would just go crazy. And so we talked about, you need to put that character in a cutting. And so when we found this play, it was designed that, that Harry character is going to be Balthazar that we're going to use, right? If you think about the chart now, who was the one who probably had the voice that was the most articulate? The teacher, right? The teacher. Where would you put Thomas? What do you think Thomas would be? Where was his rate? Was he faster or slower? Or do you think that he's just about average? Yeah, but didn't he have kind of a nasal quality when he would talk to portray the fact that he was young, right? And so now the other characters that he had in there, he also does one later on where he's like a Japanese ninja, and so he plays that particular role. But that's something that he would add as an other, or maybe for the tone. But we use the chart to track. Now, for example, whoops, those are your glasses. Where's mine?
Which one?
Where are my glasses?
Yeah, there you go.
If I could see, I could find them. Okay, what would you put
Here's the one.
for pitch? If I have a list of 3 characters, and by the way, if I'm doing a monologue or something, your character for a monologue doesn't stay the same for the entire piece, right? That would move, and so I might do 2 different aspects or 3 different aspects of that one character. The pitch would be what? High and low. All you're after are your 2 extremes. So one character, well, that would be the character who would be speaking the highest, and this would be the character, that would be the person who would be speaking the lowest. What about the rate? Who speaks the fastest in the piece? Who speaks the lowest? So all you would have is an F for fastest and an S for slowest. You say, what's in the middle? Well, you can fill the middle in, but get your extremes so that you know you get that done. Volume, what are the 2 extremes you would use? Loudest and softest. Tone, that would be what Pam had talked about. Articulation, what is that? The what?
Clarity.
Clarity, the crispest, and next of all, what? The one who slurs, maybe has sloppy articulation. What about eyes? Widest, right? And squintiest. Tension, I'm going to show you, and then the body position I want to do for you. All of you right now, take your hand and hold it out in front of you. Now, a little at a time, begin to squeeze it. Harder, harder, harder. Now squeeze it as hard as you can. That's tension. Who is the character in your piece who is like this? Who's the character in your piece that is like this? Who is the character in your piece who is either like this, or there are times when your character is that? Tension, like legs, is so often overlooked, where I can have a character almost the same voice, but the character has a very low tension. Whereas someone else can almost use the same voice, but the tension is totally different. I change the character by changing my tension variation. And now when I go from this character speaking to this one responding back, folks, my voice didn't change. Did you hear that? So when you say, what about doing characters? This character can respond and I can answer back. And my tension level is what made the character different. And so often, we don't pay any attention to that, or the kids don't. So you have this character, even if it's someone who might be, let's say it's a monologue, and they're very confident, but there does come a time in their confidence when they think back and they didn't like who they were. I've gone from this kind of attention level, right, to that kind of attention level. That creates not only a mood change, but I can create another character if I want to. The most overrated part of character building is in the voice. The most overrated. It's not how many different voices can you do, because you can do characters by changing a lot of different things. Okay, now I need all of you to stand. Yeah. We needed 3 hours, not an hour and a half. Okay, give yourself some room. You're gonna do this with me. Mr. Wycoff, how do I do characters? I came up with a system a long time ago, and I want to give it to you, share it with you. You have to do this with the kids. And it doesn't matter whether we're talking about doing a number of characters or it's one character changing maybe throughout. Remember the numbers, 1, 2, and 3. Everything starts with the numbers from the bottom, from the floor up. So I want you to think in terms of knees, shoulders, neck. Knees, shoulders, neck. If you are going to be a 1, each one of these gets a number. Each one of these gets a number, a 1, 2, or a 3. A 1 is, I'm myself. All of you just be yourself. That's how you stand, that's how my shoulders are, that's how my neck is, right? On the chart, because in your piece, someone is probably a main character themselves, right? That's a 1, 1, 1. That's a 1, 1, 1. Your kids have to write that on the chart. Now, what is a 2? A 2 means now I'm going to get tall, but I have to do this now for all 3 parts. I lock my legs, lock them, my shoulders, I get tall. Now, not like this unless you're doing humor. All right? It just means I get tall. My chest comes out, and my neck is taut. You see this character? And I've got to be able to walk. I've got to be able to walk. All of you take a few steps. You feel that? Now walk back. Are you back? Are you tall? You can't do a 2, that's a 2, right? Start from the bottom up. 2, 2, 2. You can't go to a 2 and then while you're talking, what did your 2 go to? A 1, right? So I'm a 2, 2, 2. So a character can talk. I can be a general. I can be talking to you and I'm a 2, 2, 2. And the 2, 2, 2 is going to be talking to the guy who's a 1, 1, 1. I go 1, 1, 1. Why do you say that? Because that's, do you see my shoulders move right here? But it's a 2, 2, 2. All right? Go to a 1. Go to a 2. All 3 parts, right? I'm going to talk on that. If I am a 3, everything relaxes. 3 knees, 3 shoulders in, 3 chin down. Go to a 1, go up to a 2. So I have this character talking, this one responding back, and this one's got some questions. You see that? I got a 3, 3, 3. Then you say, well, that's great, Joe. What happens if I have 4 characters? Now you got to play Mr. Potato Head. Because not all characters are easy 1s, 2s, and 3s. For example, if I'm going to play Lenny in Of Mice and Men, how many of you read Of Mice and Men? Lenny, you might say, I got to think it through. Lenny might have, Joe, 2 legs. What's that mean if it's 2 legs? Locked. He might have 2 shoulders. What's that mean? Because he's a big guy? But he might have a 3 neck. What's a 3 mean? Relax. So now, remember, I've got to be able to move. So Lenny could be talking to you right here. What's he have? He has 2 legs, 2 shoulders, right? But his neck is a 3. On the chart, you would put 2, 2, 3. So when a kid comes in and he's doing Lenny, and all of a sudden Lenny is talking here, no, that's not what's on the chart. Look at me. George, now I'm a 3, and like a 1, 2 combination. And that's when you say, now wait a minute, your numbers, that's not what we did yesterday. And if he says and you say, but you know what, I like that one better, then change the chart. Think of it this way. When is it wrong? It's only wrong when you look at all your characters and two characters have what? The same numbers. The same numbers. And if every one of your characters they all have 2 legs, that's bad, because you got 2 other numbers that you could be using. So someone saying, I don't know who's talking, you put yourself in that range when that happens. So you guys understand that? Okay, good, have a seat. This is the chart. Do you understand the chart? Kids love to fill that out. It's good for you guys to do that with them. The body positions, I'm gonna mention this, okay? For the body positions, don't have your kids do too many things at one time. They can't do too many things at one time. I would have, this is Joe Paulzine, the kid you just saw. I would have Joe come in, we would have a list of characters, and all he would do is we'd write them on the board. He would face the board, not me, and I would simply give him character names. Bam, 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 and he would go, go, go. He would just pop. That's all he didn't say a word. He would just do the body positions, and I would do them in order. And we would do them in order, and we would do them in order, and then, what would I do? Now I mix them up. He's still not saying anything, but after a while, they get, all right, let's go back and try it again. You can't do too many things at one time. And so once he had the physicalization down, now you know what we can add? One line. We add one line. They don't even have to make sense. It can be any line from the play. Where now we're going to add things where go to the character and give this line. Now I'm looking at things like rate and pitch and volume and eyes. I can even start with rate and then add pitch. But you see how it's cumulative? And you're only working on a small section. But that is how you can get the chart overall to work with you. Work in small increments. Folks, the only time I really ever heard I'm not after how kids do at the beginning of the year. What are you after? I'm after the end of the year. That's when we're doing sectionals, that's called qualifying. The tournaments that happen before that, those are important, but this is a building block. I never heard an entire cutting. The only time I would hear an entire cutting is if we were timing. If we had to do something for timing. But besides that, it was going to work on this 2-minute section for tomorrow. That will be the focus. And you know what your kids will do? They will build in confidence because they know they're doing it correctly when you're working with them in your work session. And in addition to that, you will feel good because there's something that you're doing that is analytical, that makes sense, and you know that it's a building process. Okay? The chart was critical for me.
It's really empowering to the kids too, because they get to make choices again. So, and then you can actually have a discussion, as opposed to, I think someone said, why is it that I'm doing all the thinking about everything that has to happen? If they say concretely, I need to make sure, especially like, let's think of humor. You know, I've got to make sure my characters are different. They're going to make logical choices, and they might be different ones, but now they've at least made choices, as opposed to the whole practice period. Are you guys messing around with options? They come in with homework, then you get to be able to check what those choices are.
Yeah.
Okay? So I think, Joe, they're going to do the key terms. So you're next on the 2 most important terms.
Yeah, all right, John.
No. This was before John, if we even get to John.
Okay, all right.
So in terms of the point we're going to set up here is now you've physically done it. You've physically gotten the voice, vocally gotten the voice. What are you going to do with the actual feelings? This is the word that he likes to use instead of commitments. And there's another one coming up after that. So this is about doing the interpret part of the words.
Yeah, the chart, that's critical. The next 2 terms are, is lunch at 1?
Yeah.
Is that true? Shake your head, yes?
Yes.
Right? Okay, I want to get through these 2. So if it's just a little before 1, I don't care. I want to make sure you hear this. So so we have the chart, and then it's commitments, and then the big one.
These terms are not in the packet, so they're only on the slide.
It's beating the word. Chart, commitments, beating the word. Definition, commitment is is making visible a dedication to an attitude or emotion. And please don't tell me, drama teachers, that you can't play attitudes or emotions. You certainly can. It's dedication to an attitude or emotion until it becomes visible. Now, if I am making commitments, that means that not only have I memorized the line, but what am I after on that line? There has to be some objective that I have. I mean, it's like taking the GPS. You got to program in where you want to go, or you don't know if you ever got there, right? So for a commitment on giving this particular line, what are you after emotionally? Does that make sense? And where you put the commitment in, depending on the flow of what you have for the particular line or character, will probably change. And so this is what you have kids do. Is the cluers and doers?
No, but let's do, you want to do the reading the word first?
Okay, because they go together.
Yeah.
Beating the word is this. If I talk about a commitment, that is going to be my emotional or attitudinal choice. Beating the word is on placement. Where do I put it? Beating the word and inserting the commitment is all nonverbal. Folks, you do your real acting in the silence. You don't do it on the word. You do it non-verbally. And it happens often just like that. I put in a commitment and I beat the word with every punctuation mark. That means primarily with the period capital, with a dash, semicolon, colon, comma. I have to stick something in there. This is, I think, not only a difficult thing to do in interp, this will make a world of difference for your orators. For me, working with oratory and working with interp, they are just the same. Do you think that the kids in oratory don't have to know about understanding your body? That the kids in oratory don't also have to know about emotional choices, attitude choices? If not, it's one level all the way through. And so when you're saying to John Hoffmeister, who did the drama but was a national champion in oratory, John, you're not beating the word. You're doing an entire section, and it's too fast, and I'm not seeing any emotional development. As a speaker, it is your job to take the hand of the audience and lead them through the material. Because sometimes you can have a funny line and your audience doesn't know to laugh because you haven't telegraphed to them that this is what you can do. And that's what happens when you beat the word by putting in the commitment. Now look at the sheet later on for...
You want to take the letters home? I think it's the next one for a second.
Yeah.
Flip ahead to just to see how you
Yeah.
can write them in. About 3. They'll do commitments in a second, but I'll let you see the... where is it? Letters home is the next page. So the Sylvia Plath character, which is talking and reading here, the lines on here would show how a student can take, if they are reading, Sylvia Plath is reading, writing in her journal, she's going to write. The commitment there, just in terms of a nonverbal before she even starts, is friendly, contemplating an idea, a little bit of an emotion. Then she says the line, November 13, 1949. Now she's writing, she's confident, she's happy. They're not always just one word like happy. It's what she's thinking and feeling as she's going. And this is happening. The choice is being made, which is the commitment. Those are the words that say what they are. But you need to show us how she got there non-verbally, which will start in the pause before it. Most kids only do interp on the word. Most orators only deliver on the word.
And you know what will happen, folks? If you will say, if the light bulb goes on, and you say, Joe, Pam, I get it, and you have your kids work on that, they'll be better, and the other people won't know why. They'll be better. That kid got better. Well, there's a reason why he or she got better, because you inserted something that is actually real and believable. Because if you watch people, I believe you, this is what people do. If I'm angry, if you say something and I'm irritated, I give you something before that, don't I? You see a posting and you are elated, something happens before you actually speak. There is a what? A commitment that I put in. And now I can give the particular line like that's great. But first of all, I had a non-verbal response. If I'd say something in oratory about haven't you been there before? Did you see what I just did? Watch. Did you see that right there? That is a commitment where I'm gonna take you with me. And where did I place it? Right before the word. Orator. If the extent kids would ever do this, good God, they'd win every round that they ever went to. And don't even talk about the debaters. Right? They don't have time. Okay.
Yeah, so these are the two nonverbals that we want to say, and there's also, I don't think we're gonna get to see the sample, so I want to show you the activities that you can do to bring that out in them. So this is a written sample for your students in terms of letters home, showing them how they can go and map out the commitments given the lines. But then as an activity, we do what's called cluers and doers, and where you can work in partner pairs, and kids can just learn to show emotions with their face, all nonverbal. And so you would give them, like what we would normally do here is, we would say puzzled, and then, the cluer would say puzzled, and the doer has to show puzzled. And if they don't do it, the cluer is gonna wait until they see puzzled, and then they might snap their fingers or clap or drop a penny in a bucket or whatever you want to use for a signal, and then they've got it. So kids start to show that they can show emotions non-verbally on cue. So it's a drill. They'll have a blast doing it, and especially when you have a couple funny ones, like it starts with puzzled and it ends with sexy.
Sexy is there for a reason.
They like something a little fun like that. And then we included for you drama commitments and humor commitment lists, just so you have them. And what you would want to do is a student could literally make a range of emotions non-verbally for the piece they're doing and just drill it non-verbally without the words to learn how to beat the word, and then they're going to carry it on into it. As I said again, most mistakes are that you only do it on the word, not before the word. So this will help to get them to non-verbally telegraph it. That's the word we use, beat it, telegraph it. So that's how the drill can actually work.
Okay, can you get ready? I want to see if we can play drill.
I don't think it's necessary.
That's okay, I want to play it anyway. Okay, now listen to this. The cluers and doers, folks, you've got to do it too. The kids will go crazy. Your kids will go crazy. So right now, watch me. We're not going to get out of this early. Watch me. You're going to be the cluer, and I'm going to be the doer. This is what you would do with your kids. This is a fun exercise, but there's also a reason behind it. You ready? Give me the first word. Now, I'm finding a focal point. Give me the first word. Now, do you notice that my entire body has to do it? Not just my face. If you are the cluer, you're talking. Joe, legs, legs, legs. I have to include my legs. As soon as you see it, you snap. You understand? If they don't get it, you don't snap. And then you know what they will do? I did it. And what's your point? No, you didn't, because why? I didn't see it. You'll have people
Or I
who,
didn't believe it.
or I don't believe it. I don't know what you were doing. And or the people who would give me the word again.
Puzzle.
Joe, I didn't see it. I was being subtle. No, you're being bad. That's bad. That's bad in turn. I need to be able to see it. And coaches, let your new kids get goofy with it. So if they're doing happy, and you have a new kid and they're really over the top, let them do that. If they're sad and they're really sad, let them do that. As time goes on, you will shrink it down to, I want things to be now a little bit more believable. Okay, give me another one. What's another word?
Embarrassed.
Embarrassed. Third.
Emphatic.
Next one.
Heartfelt.
Now, do you see my shoulders move here? So when you're giving these, all of me is working, not just my face. You're trying to establish, folks, an emotional repertoire that your kids can have so that when they find out what they're after or the commitment in their piece, it's not so foreign and so new to them. Because eventually, here's what you want to do. You want to say, we have a little make-believe list here that we're working with. Now let's go to the real stuff. Now let's go to what's really in your piece, and you don't even have to put lines with it. Let's just go through, and even if we've done the chart, I see your, now let's go. We're going to play cluers and doers. Bam. And once they can start showing you that, now plug that into that line. Plug it into the line. No, you didn't beat the word. What does that mean? I didn't see it first. You put it on the word. You stuck it inside. I need to see that baby right there in front. Joe, you've got a comma there. A comma means what? What's a comma mean?
Pause.
You got to stick something in a pause. When I've got a pause, I need to do something in that pause. I need a nonverbal. I either have to telegraph the next line coming up or I have to respond to what I've already said. I don't run them all together. You say, wow, that sounds like a lot of work. Well, welcome to interpret, right? This is something that, and the kids love to do this. Remember, this is a cumulative process, and that being teachers, we have found this is a smart way to work with kids, because then you know what they can do. They really, once you've worked with them, you can give them a new kid, and they, when you've heard of peer coaching, what a disaster that can be. It can also be something wonderful. When this kid who knows the drill, they know how to play cluers and doers. They know what you're talking about when you're saying the chart, working with the chart. They can take that kid in a room and they can, with intelligence, teach the kid what each of those things mean. Now you're doing something smart, and you've got assistant coaches there with you. They're teaching, this other kid is learning something, and pretty soon you've got a system developed where this really makes sense, okay?
And they totally have fun doing it. So this is fun. This is fun. For those of you that have a class, you can do it during class. You can have peer coaching. We have our category reps that do peer coaching. So here's a little bit. I will tell you, this is the one about white people, and this is the teacher talking. The sound is, I asked our tech guy at school when they taped it at Nationals, is he said over-modulating. So we do not believe in loud histrionics, but because of the modulation, Cliff Dodge already told us there's times where it's a little too loud. So we may not, it's about 4 minutes or so.
Yeah, and listen, we're okay. We fly out of here today. I'm not leaving until we have talked about what we really want you to know. You guys deserve that. And so this is something we could stop right now, but I want you to see this because we've shown you a humor, right? I want to show you a drama. You're going to see some of the same things, but the tone overall is different. Okay?
Yeah, and that's why we did it with characters for the first one, because that's a little bit more on the external, and this is more internal, although there's a moment in here where he does do another character, and I think you'll see the body shifts and the
Yeah.
voice shift. Yeah.
So this
He
is
does,
the
let's
model.
hope it works.
Now, we're picking it up about halfway.
Yeah, halfway. We
through.
did the end just because it's got a good visualization section and good storytelling, so it's totally different from Joe.
And these are my archetypes for this girl. This brilliant
Dustin?
black girl. And I'm telling you this because of what happened a few months back. My pregnant wife, Sarah, and I, we were all walking through the park here when they came up from behind and stood in front of us. right there. 3 black boys. 16, 17, I couldn't tell, but they wore those same baggy pants as Felicia. And one of them had a gold tooth. And they were rocking on the balls of their feet. When one of them turned to me and said, "Hey man, back there, what was that about?" I'm sorry, sir, I don't know what you're talking about. Hey man, don't be dissing me. I know you got my wallet. I don't have your wallet, sir. There must be some kind of a misunderstanding. Maybe somebody else in there. Hey man, I said don't be dissing me. I know you got my wallet. Right there in that pocket. And the second kid started poking me in the chest, and the third was reaching for Sarah's purse, and she started screaming, and there was punching and then laughing like it was a game, and then Sarah was on the ground. And they're kicking her, and she's trying to cover her stomach, but they're kicking her there. Do they not know what they're doing? They're my wife! And then all of a sudden, I remember hearing a voice, or somebody behind me, or somebody in the park, somebody had started yelling, "Stop it! Stop it, you filthy, dirty black! I want you all dead!" And then they were gone. And I remember getting up and looking around to see whose voice I had heard. And I realized it was mine. I want you all dead. I was fine. A few bruised ribs, nothing big. Sarah, thank God, is out of the hospital now. The baby, well, nothing's for sure. But we know it's a girl. We know that much. But we don't have a name yet. Not till we're certain. Anyway, after taking some time off to be with Sarah, I had my first class. And there were cards, flowers, and one student even made a cake.
You see that commitment?
I had no idea that they even, well, it meant a great deal. Felicia stayed after, wanted to go at me about my lecture, and every time she spoke, I would look at her, and I would see them. Filthy, ignorant, black.
Commitments.
And we stood there talking. She had no clue. And the shame ran straight through me. Later, I caught up with Felicia in the hallway. Felicia, hey! Hi, good, thanks. Listen, Felicia, I was wondering if maybe this weekend, if you're not busy or anything, if maybe you'd want to go to lunch with my wife and me. I don't know, walk around, just
Listen.
talk.
Great commitment.
And Felicia turned to me and said, "Yeah, that'd be sick."
That's set up from the beginning of the play when she talks that way.
Yeah, I told her. I think it would be. You know, I've got to tell you, I firmly believe that history illuminates the present. Peter Stuyvesant, you can see it right there on the statue. He lost his leg in battle. It's documented as almost a miracle. Surgery at the time was filled with filth and dirt, and anyone else would have died from infection. But somehow, he survived. And they say he was able to come through his ordeal through faith. Faith in what he knew was right in the world.
What?
Faith. Wouldn't that be a beautiful name for a child?
Round of applause for John.
That's the hope ending that we're talking about. I mean, you could cut that, you could have cut that piece right at the sick, and they're gonna go talk. But he had set up in the beginning that he was in the park in New York, Stuyvesant Park, and that statue was there. And then came back to that at the end in terms of using the place again and seeing that statue and telling the story about someone whose faith got them through. And then to have this child who they're so concerned will even live. But he's reconciled. I can't carry that incident with my feelings about everybody else. And that's faith, that's hope. And so when he gives that name to me, it's like, oh, you know, that's the message that you want to carry through. And I think it's beautiful in terms of saying you have to work through those prejudices. You know, in the lifetime of Trayvon Martin's and all the crud out there, messages like this, and John wanted a message.
Yeah,
He wanted a message, and that was empowering to him. To him, it was not just a story, it was a message. And that made everything different.
He had done this, he had also, the year before, done the Laramie Project. Because he was a kid, talented, he had something to say. And the line in here that still gives me goosebumps when I hear it was, and the shame ran through me. He didn't scream that line. He said it really very quietly. Where was his moment for volume when he blew the top off?
The kicking and
Screamed
and
at them.
Yeah, the fight, when he's being attacked. That's when he goes crazy and everything is fast. When was his slowest? Well, he had numbers of those, but do you see how you keep the ball moving? And he goes from irate to, at the end, kind of reconciled with the fact, by golly, I'm going to make an attempt to make things right. And that was an objective that he had. Now, one of the final things for me, and then we're done.
Yeah, right, I'll touch on the two activities.
Yeah, the two activities. John Hoffmeister, Joe Paulzine, my son, anybody, they all did every single thing that you're seeing up here. So Joe, what's the trick? There, we don't have any tricks. Pam, we don't have any. This is what we do. And I guarantee you, you don't have to get everything perfect that's up there. If you